Is it a fight? Some say it's a fight. Actually, it's a battle. I'm going to get into why there's a battle and explain the battle. But hey, I'm Christophe Clugston, the Jedi Dog Master, and we're going to launch into why there's such a division or a battle. It's a battle between pet dog trainers and pet dog behaviorists, as they like to be called. Okay, number one, that's one of the problems, is that you have people now calling themselves trainers, pet dog trainers, and they don't really have any skill. They haven't apprenticed anyone. They haven't been doing it. Like I've said before, if you really want someone who knows what they're doing, you need somebody that has 20 years of actually training and then is apprenticed with someone else. But that you're not going to find that. You're going to find people who went to maybe like PetSmart, Petco, or whatever, similar sort of thing that Zach George did, and then try to tell people how to train, but they can only train certain types of dogs, the weak dogs actually. And they can only train, again, we're talking about pet dog trainers. They're the lowest of the low. They cannot begin to do what the people who work with search and rescue dogs, guide dogs, sled dogs, hunting dogs, protection dogs, anti-poaching dogs. All of these dogs, military dogs, sentry dogs, scout dogs, all these types of dogs are far beyond the capacity of the pet dog trainers. And then they retort with, well, I don't need the people don't want them to do that. They don't need that. So yeah, okay, so you can exist with a third grade education, but is that what you're going to promote? That, hey, a third grade education is all that your dog needs, and that's all that the trainer needs. They only need to be able to train third grade. They don't need to have advanced degrees because, hey, you know, it's better to go to a witch doctor than an actual neurosurgeon, right? That's the argument that they're using. And then the other side of this battle are people who are stopping behavior. Now, when you're stopping behavior, you're not a trainer, but they like to, a lot of people like to go by, he's a dog trainer, this guy or this woman is a great dog trainer, when they're talking about people who stop behavior. You're not a you're not a teacher, not an instructor. If somebody wants to stop smoking and you are capable of stopping them from smoking, with good luck, for example, because nicotine is an incredible drug. Or stop drinking, or stop any sort of obsessive behavior, which is what people are complaining about. But what they're really complaining about is that since the 1990s, there's been this huge movement of urban and suburban dog owners. People are living in the city and living in the suburbs and bringing dogs there because of the looks, not because of what the dog's capacity was. Most dogs in the West are human-involved breeding. They were selected for certain traits, and that they develop these traits, then they look like whatever. For example, border collies herding sheep, a certain type of sheep, because their methods, by the way, free information, will not work with every sheep on the planet. People wonder why they're bored and they're restless and they tear things up. Or, Siberian Huskies, originally, bred for sled dog usage. Now they're not used so much for sled dogs because the Alaskan Husky has taken over. That's a different video for a different time. But they're known to be vocal, very vocal. They like to howl and they like to dig because they're bored. They want to run. They want to do something. People live in the suburbs. Small, whatever it might be, their 1/10 of an acre lot is not going to cut it for a dog. Or being kenneled all the time. Crate or kennel. So a lot of people, a kennel is bad or a tie out's bad, yet they put them in crates, which is, this is even smaller confinement. People try to pass this off because they don't see the dog in the crate if the dog's inside the house, right? That's the thing. But so we have this division, these people saying that they're behaviorists. Really? What type of education do they have to be a behaviorist? What ethology? And if they don't even know, if you don't know these words, then it clues you in that you're not capable of really doing. What ethology do you know? Behavioral ecology. Behavioral ecology, ethology, and of course you're going to have to know behaviorism. And there's a lot of people who are promoting themselves as behaviorists, but they have no academic training in behaviorism, and they make clear and utter mistakes. They can't define operant conditioning. They can't define respondent conditioning. They confuse what is respondent conditioning, also known as classical or Pavlovian conditioning, with associative learning. It's not the same thing whatsoever. And if you want to learn more, you can take my mentorship do a clinic or a consultation, and I'll clear that up for you. But not here. I'm being pretty generous with giving all this information right now. But this battle exists, and because it's a multi. I think it's $500 million in the pet dog industry right now, and most of it, of course, is in dog food, and then also accessories. But the training, that's why there's so many people who became pet dog trainers. When I started, and I've said this many times, but I'm going to repeat it because a lot of people don't watch all my videos, and they don't have the gumption to go and do the research. So I'll clear this up again. When I started training, there were people who were basically hobby trainers as sport obedience, or they were training gun dogs, bird dogs. There were also people training for the military or the police, and these are paid professionals, of course. And there are people who are working with movie dogs, film dogs, and commercials on TV and such. Those were professional trainers. Outside of that, everybody was a hobby trainer. And the hobby trainer is actually a higher level than what I see now. Overall, the people who were training dogs in the 70s were far better than the quality you see now. Well, fast forward into the 90s, we get this explosion of people moving to the urban thing, and then they're having problems because the dogs that they select are having problems because the people don't spend enough time with the dogs. And a perfect situation for most dogs is on a ranch or a farm. Well, these people don't have it, and they're bringing livestock guarding dogs, Anatolians, Great Pyrenees into the city or into apartments. Even worse, these dogs don't fit in this environment. They're not getting exercise. The people are working, and they don't pay attention to the dogs enough. They don't interact with the dogs, and they're having reactions. So this is a dog in the wrong environment. If you take away this, you change the environment, you won't have these problems. Hey, look at humans put in a prison situation. Oh, there's all sorts of problems here. They have a reaction to this. They have a reaction to that. Yeah, because it's the wrong environment. So most of these things stem from being in the wrong environment. Huge base of the problem is that. And so people started figuring, I can make a lot of money by charging people by trying to suppress these, the barking, suppress the wanting to dig, wanting to get out, the wanting to run, the reaction to other dogs, which would be normal because if this is my territory, this is, and the people don't even know this. They have, the people who are supposedly behaviorists and such, they don't even know. You talk to them about Conrad Lorenz, they don't know a thing about anything. They don't have the education or the background. They don't know how to research. They just babble. And they say, I've been training dogs for 3 years. Oh, Junior, I'm in my 51st year. And I have the education academic. And the people who, don't bring in the fact that you're an authority. Yeah, of course. Of course people with no credentials are going to be angry because they cannot compete with that. Of course the witch doctor is angry with the neurosurgeon because their level of expertise and knowledge you're not my peer. You're not my peer, so don't act like it. And this is what we have a problem with. We have people who are not at the right level cashing in. So again, what I was talking about back, we go back to the 70s, the dog training and this wide frame was about as popular as cat training is now. I can train cats, but there's not a market for cat training, not to bilk people, not to go for the suburbanites who will pay you $3,000 for 2 weeks or 3 weeks of training, which is where all these pet dog trainers come in, and they will refuse training certain dogs because their method, they only know one method, they only know one way, and we're usually talking about the people who start with e-collars right away. Doesn't work. They're trying to microwave dogs. And this is what people are like, yeah, my dog is trained. Your dog is not trained. It's not stable. You don't know anything. You have to learn also yourself. So I don't deal with this part of the market. Yeah, it's where all the money is. Just like kids karate is where all the money is for martial arts. But in martial arts, I'm in the deep end. The worst case scenarios. I'm the one that teaches, zero distance warfare, military, and to contractors, and to civilians who want to know how to survive the worst case scenario. You shouldn't have been there. Well, how's that help them? That's the same thing with these dogs, you shouldn't have gotten Afghan hound. Well, because they don't know how to train an Afghan hound. They don't know how to train a greyhound. It won't work. It won't work. The method that they're using will not work, and they don't have the background and experience to know how to train dogs other ways. Now, this is again where I will say, the data-driven part of the tactical training really shows progress, and you're scientifically showing that what you're doing and knowing what you're doing These people are not doing it. They're not doing that in the pet dog business, and they're not doing it generally anywhere other than in military. And so you have that, but then you have the flexibility and adaptability of movie dog trainers who don't get to cherry pick their dogs for every role. They're told, I have to work with this dog, and sometimes they're not given a lot of time. So you got to know more than one type of method. It doesn't work. And if people say there's only one method, that's ridiculous to say there's more than one method. That's like saying there's only one medicine, and one medicine will work for every disease and every ailment. Operationally from experience that is not true, and it's the same way, but these people don't know because they don't have the depth. They're not built. That's why you won't find anybody who will take my Jedi Dog Master challenge, because they don't have that skill. That's trainer skill across a bunch of different types of dogs in a bunch of different situations. You don't have to get to cherry pick. It's not pattern training. It's not a contrived sport situation. Style points tell you everything. I mean, what is that? It's not really big deal, and so the movie dog training is more functional, and that's one of the things that bringing out to people, very few people know, because very few movie dog TV dog trainers talk or share their knowledge, and the greats are all dying off or are dead. So there's very few people you can get in contact with who actually know something and can give you the history and tell you about, hey, this is what happened with Rin Tin Tin, this is what happened with Lassie, the real pal, and such. A lot of conjecture, a lot of fantasy that's being spread around about these dogs. But that's why there's a battle. It's so much money, and everybody wants to convince you that they're an expert. They know dogs. They've worked with dogs. Yeah, look, when it comes to operational experience, there are few people who touch me. And I use myself as an example because I'm talking from, I've done it. I've climbed K2, I've climbed Everest. These people are still working on El Capitan. They don't have it. They don't have the ability. They don't have the experience. They don't have the knowledge. And of course, they want to dismiss the fact that they don't have academic credentials in it, meaning they didn't have to pass any bar, because they want to lower the standards at all times. They want to move the goalposts, and they want to argue ideology. Now, this is where we get into the big battles because of ideology. Because a lot of pet dog trainers want to say, force-free, no corrections. Well, nothing in nature has no aversive. It's aversive. The dog, number one, it has to be from the dog's point of view, not from your point of view, projecting yourself from your Western ethnocentric view onto the dog. And it's like, it's aversive. You know what? It's very aversive? Spaying and neutering a dog. The battle between the pet dog trainers is not based on performance. It's about this ideology. Because if they want to base it off of performance, then they actually have to perform and show that they've done something. And then they're open to straight competition. Who's the fastest runner? It's pretty easy to see. This is why they don't want this. This is why they have a big thing with Zach George, for example, and other people on a different side. They want to create a divide because it's about ideology. If you don't use our ideology, then you're not using the right dog trainer, and that doesn't have to do anything with performance. And as I said before, if you go back to the 70s, performance-based hobby trainers cared more about actually having the dogs learn and perform and do things than they do now. Now it's about, it has to fit the ideology. If we don't use this ideology, you're wrong. You must find somebody that fits into our force-free idea of learning. Well, that's not nature, and that is not life. You can't show me how that is. Again, they don't have any background in ethology or behavioral ecology, zoology for that matter. They have no idea. They're not, in this case, they're not, they use the French sinologist, or they use the German and also the Greek kinologist. They're not kinologists. They don't understand dogs well enough. They don't have the background, they don't have the education, and they can't compete on that. They don't want to compete on the academic level because they don't have it. They don't want to compete on the operational experience because they don't have it. They don't have 10, 20 years, let alone 51 years like I do of operational experience. They can't possibly compete. So what they want to do is argue about ideology. This is what the battle's about. It's about this $500 million or more market share of the pet dogs. There's no struggle in the working dog, meaning that there's no struggle with the bird dog trainers, there's no struggle with the bite dog, the protection dog trainers, or the anti-poaching dogs, or the narcotics dogs, or the forbidden fruit coming into the airports, those trainers don't have a big battle with each other, because they're not trying to get suburban people who would be better off with tropical fish, because they want to spend about much time with their dog as they do with a tropical fish. Hey, look at this dog, look, isn't he amazing the way he looks and stuff? And I want minimal care. I don't want to have any interaction with him, but I want to pull him out and show him off when people are around, some sort of idea of this is like part of my furniture or something, and they don't want the involvement. Cats are far more independent, can get by without human interaction, but dogs were the first domesticated animal on the planet, and used for many different things. Again, this goes into the different categories that people put dogs in for many years: a working dog, sporting dog, hunting dog, protection guarding dogs, livestock guarding dogs. All of these types of dogs were selectively bred to enhance these behavior traits. And then people don't like it. Why is my Australian Kelpie nipping, or my Australian cattle dog nipping at my children's feet? Because they're trying to herd them. They're trying to herd them. This is not, you're trying to change this. It's like trying to change their color or try to change your height. Hey, a woman, I want a tall man, but he's only 5 feet tall. He's not going to be. You can't change that. That's genetically locked in. You need to learn what genotypes and phenotypes are. And got to know which one you're working with and which one cannot be worked with. This is a big problem, and this is where gets to it's all about my feelings about it, my ideology. You need to find someone who does this and that, and you're projecting. You don't know. It's got to be from the dog's point of view, not from your point of view, and not from your very ethnocentric Western point of view, because you don't even know what other cultures are like in other parts of the world, because you don't have a sociology degree, you don't have an anthropology degree, and you don't study those things. You don't know about those things. You're ignorant. In your you think your bubble, your little small umwelt is where everything is exactly like that, and that's what's projected onto the dog world. So that's what this big battle is about. It's an ideological battle to try to get the money, because the force-free people want their ideology to be, if you don't adhere to our ideology, then you cannot train dogs, and we're going to try to passive-aggressively use a crowd to stop you from training dogs. And again, it's not about what is effective or what is the best and what produces results, and it's not about learning. It's not about training and trying to say there's a consensus. Consensus is not a fact. Since when I'm going to cover what I've already covered before, because again, many people don't watch my other videos. I try to give you an overview of everything, because I know what I'm talking about, unlike what the other people on the other sides of everything want to talk about. They want to basically spew their ideology. Well, since when have veterinarians trained dogs? When? Show me. What do they train? What? Where's their anti-poaching dog? Huh? Where is that? Where's their search and rescue dog? Huh? Where's the Upland gun dog? Where is this? Where are these dogs that they've trained? They haven't. It's like saying, the American Medical Association is producing athletes for the Olympics. They're not. They're not. The consensus from the American Medical Association is that you should do this. They don't know. They're not trained. They're not Olympic trainers. They're not at the cutting edge of exercise physiology or mental enhancement, peak performance techniques. They don't know about athletes. They don't know. The sport medicine guys, this is all about repairing. It's about repairing. It's not about enhancing a performance level. We're talking about performance. So, and spewing this and not citing actual studies with a control group, it's meaningless. And also, what statistical range you're using. I know all this stuff that people like Zach George have no education in research methods. None. They don't know statistics at all. And the people that they're citing are not, it's just feelings again. It's ideology. Well, we felt like this way, and then we thought this and that, and it's not, these are not cutting edge leading studies. So this is the ideology. Again, it's all about, the battle's about the ideology. If they can get you to believe their ideology, then they can corner the market, and the big money is in the pet dog, because people, as I've said, because these people want to treat it like it's a remote control. Like, you train my dog, that's all I have to do. I don't have to do any maintenance. It's just like, they want an answer losing weight, but they don't want to lose weight. They don't want to maintain it. They don't want to run. They don't want to lift weights. They don't want to do anything. They just want to have it done for them in the shortest period of time. They want to take a pill for this. This is not how it works with actual learning. It doesn't work with any sort of learning. Tell me about the language that you've learned as an adult. Most of you haven't. You can't. You don't have it because you don't have the wherewithal to do it. You don't have the character to do it. You don't have the gumption. You don't have the integrity to do these sorts of things. Well, this is the same thing. Training dogs, teaching dogs is teaching, building new behaviors, and that's why I want to make very clear that's who I deal with. People who are invested in their dogs, who want to become better trainers, who want to do things that other people can't do. I can do what other people can't do. Thus the Jedi Dog Master Challenge. Until I see people equaling that, you cannot equal me. You're not my peer. You are not my peer. Let's get that through the mind. There is definitely that's just how it is. Just in a race again. Somebody's going to be the fastest runner. Somebody can lift the most. Someone's going to know more languages than another person. Someone's going to have a bigger lexicon. Someone's going to have more accomplishments in life. All of these things are facts. Facts. And you don't like it. And that's why the ideology is involved, because that way you don't have to deal in facts. You don't have to deal with this. So this is the battle. The battle is for making you believe as a pet dog owner that these people who have minimal skill, who can't train dogs to do anti-poaching, can't train bite dogs, can't train search and rescue dogs, can't train seeing eye guide dogs, cannot train jail extraction, prison extraction dogs. They can't train these dogs because they don't know the skills, they don't know how, they don't know the type of dog, they can't handle that type of dog. They're used to neutered, generic, mutant type of dogs, Labradoodles, Golden Doodles, Shih Tzus, Maltese, Beagles, things that are on the range of different dogs that are very easy to deal with. They can't deal with Afghans, Salukis, Greyhounds. They're not training Greyhounds. They're not training these dogs, and they're failing with Malinois. They can't handle it. Pet dog owners can't train Malinois. They better not either. They don't understand these dogs. So I say all this again, because this is the battle. The battle is about the ideology, and that's why they want to suck you into ideology. That's why Zach George couldn't respond to my video where I kick his ass, because it's all about performance. It's like, let's see you train a dog to avoid rattlesnakes. Let's see you train a dog to stop going for chickens. Let's see, how's that going to work? Your methods won't work, Zach. Your ideology doesnn't play there, and you don't want to be brought into that because you want to avoid it. That's it. You want to avoid it. And again, I want to say that, my jungle dog just had surgery, and it's a very expensive surgery, and I'm going to be putting his GoFund up until it's actually paid back. Actually, it went over I have it set at $4,000, but it actually cost me over $5,000. I'm being generous with my knowledge of 51 years, also showing you dogs and giving you inspiration, motivation is my main key, to show you what can be done. It's not monetized. I don't have a Patreon. I don't have an online course at this point. And I am saying, when watching my videos, help my dog out. And that has no ideology other than helping a dog. So look at the GoFundMe that's below in the first comment.